Good morning. We are kicking things off early with the Amplify Philly at Home series with a special program, Philadelphia's Leading Women in Tech, Deepening Diversity and Opportunity, presented by SelectUSA and the City of Philadelphia. We want to thank the City of Philadelphia for their continued support of Amplify Philly, and we welcome SelectUSA as a partner this morning as well. For those of you who are not familiar, the Amplify Philly at Home monthly series kicked off in July and spotlights the convergence of music, art, business, and tech. You can catch our past programs on our website, amplifyphilly.com, and join us again this afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a lineup full of impactful conversations with leaders from a cross-section of industries, musical performances, and community. But for now, we'll hear from a lineup of dynamic leaders, all based here in Philadelphia. And if you didn't know, Philadelphia is the birthplace of the USA and gene therapy. And we rank second best city for diversity in STEM, third best city for women in tech, and third best as startup city in the United States. In this upcoming program, you'll learn how the culture and communities in Philadelphia support the development of female leadership and diversity in tech and innovation. So I'd like to hand things off to Sylvie Gaie Howard, the Acting Director of Commerce at the City of Philadelphia, and Jacqueline Vitello, the Deputy Director for Programs at SelectUSA, U.S. Department of Commerce. Sylvie?
All right, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Can everybody hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, great. Thank you. I'm having a little bit of, I had a little bit of trouble hearing myself. So good morning, everyone. I'm Sylvie Gaie Howard, Acting Director of Commerce, and I'm pleased to be here to kick off this wonderful panel today. Leading Women in Tech, Deepening Diversity and Opportunity. I want to start by recognizing all the partners that have been part of making this great event happen. SelectUSA, which is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce and International Trade Administration, U.S. Commercial Services in Philadelphia, Amplify Philly, Philly Tech Group, my colleagues at the Philadelphia Commerce Department have been involved in this. And I also want to recognize our wonderful panelists today from Lift Labs at Comcast and NBCUniversal, Stimulus, Chariot Solutions, and AMO. So for those of you tuning in that are not from Philadelphia, Philadelphia is welcome to Philadelphia. We are a city of first, the birthplace of American democracy, the first computer, the first gene therapy ranked second best city for diversity in STEM, third best city for women in tech, super important, especially today, that'll be covered today. Third startup city in the United States, and over 50,000 tech companies in the region. We also recently ranked number 4 best venture capital return in the U.S. So looking forward to today's discussion to explore the rich diversity we have and opportunities here in Philadelphia. It's my pleasure to introduce Jacqueline Vitello, who is the Deputy Director for Programs and Events from SelectUSA. Jacqueline.
All right, great. And so welcome and thank you everybody for joining today's webinar. We're very excited to be partnering with you all with the City of Philadelphia to offer this event, which is intended for tech companies, ideally led by female entrepreneurs like all of our wonderful panelists today who are interested in learning more about expanding in the United States. So my name is Jacqueline Vitello and I'm the Deputy Director for Programs and Events at SelectUSA. And for those of you who don't know, SelectUSA is the U.S. federal government program that is dedicated to advancing the administration's trade and economic agenda by fostering job-creating business investment into the United States. SelectUSA and the International Trade Administration have local team members all over the world at our embassies and consulates who are ready to help companies in those embassies and consulates or in those areas find their next U.S. investment destination. Since its inception, SelectUSA has facilitated more than $78 billion in investment, creating and/or retaining over 95,000 US jobs. SelectUSA is working hard to create a diverse environment in which companies can bring forward new ideas and innovations into the United States. Our role is to smooth the process for foreign companies and help them expand their operations by doing business here. The United States, as you all know, is a recognized leader in research and development, and we register more international patents than any other country. Today's innovators are safeguarded by robust intellectual property protections, and while the innovators of tomorrow are nurtured at leading universities and incubators all over the country. Companies of all sizes and from all over the world help to make innovation in the United States a global enterprise, benefiting from and contributing to a flourishing ecosystem for invention and inspiration. SelectUSA has a number of services that include customized information and counseling for companies like yours, marketing and promotion via large and small scale events like this one, and assistance navigating the federal regulatory system, which we all know can be a bit overwhelming at times, so we're here to help. As always, we also offer data and resources. We have an excellent research team, and most of our services are free of charge. And you can learn all about that and more on selectusa.gov. And you can navigate to the resources tab to check out a few of our free resources that are available to you today. We also aim to bring innovative content specifically for startups around the world via our SelectUSA Tech program, which is a program dedicated to connecting early stage and startup tech companies with opportunities for advancement in the US. And as a component of SelectUSA Tech, SelectUSA is proud to be establishing a new program called Select Global Women in Tech, which is, as the name would suggest, for female entrepreneurs to increase foreign direct investment through access to financing, market opportunities, networking, mentorship, and training. And we are very happy, as I said, to be partnering with the City of Philadelphia today to bring you a few shining examples of what women in tech can accomplish here in the US. Until we're able to meet in person again, our team at SelectUSA will continue to offer virtual programming, including workshops for economic developers, webinars explaining US government resources and regulations, virtual tours of locations across the United States, and sessions for startups. I do want to mention that we have a huge annual event. It's the SelectUSA Investment Summit. It'll be in June of next year, and we plan to launch registration for that in mid-November, so look out for that. Without further delay, I'm thrilled to introduce you to our partners who have already been mentioned, the Department of Commerce and the City of Philadelphia, Amplify Philly, and our moderator for today's event, Tracy, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Chariot. And without further ado, Tracy, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Jacqueline, good morning from Philadelphia, and welcome to all of our attendees. I'm not sure what time zone you're in, but it's not too early here. As Jacqueline said, my name is Tracy Welson-Rossman. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Chariot Solutions. We are a software consulting firm located right outside of Philadelphia, and I'm also the founder of Tech Girls, which is a nonprofit to help get more middle school girls to embrace the power of technology for their future careers. I'm so happy to be here to bring to light the strength and long history of the Philadelphia region's tech and life sciences community. I actually have some ties to its history, maybe 6 degrees of separation, but when I was growing up, I did not know that one of my best friend's moms was one of the women who worked on the ENIAC computer, which was the first computer in the United States. And my dad, who started programming in 1961 at GE, was also one of the early customers of Stanard Services, which was one of the first data recovery centers in the country, which is located in Philadelphia. These two examples show me how interconnected our community was and still is. And the women in tech startups, and life sciences community continues to exemplify this strong example. The region has a long history of supporting women with organizations and conferences, leading the conversation before it was cool to have this diversity conversation. So of course, Tech Girls, another conference called Q Conference, AWE, which is supporting women in the life sciences and entrepreneurial community, Mobilettes, are just some examples. So join me in welcoming 3 women who have been in the forefront of the work in tech business, tech startups, and the women's community. Danielle Cohn, Vice President of Startup Engagement and Head of Lift Labs at Comcast NBCUniversal. Tiffanie Stanard, Founder and CEO of Stimulus, and Shanae Pitts, Founder and CEO of Ammo. And what I would like to do is start off with each of you telling a little bit about yourselves. And were you originally from Philadelphia, or were you born here? And regardless of how you got to Philadelphia, what has made you stay here? And why don't we start off with Tiffanie?
Hey everyone. Again, I'm Tiffanie Stanard. I am the founder and CEO of Stimulus, and I am born and raised in Philadelphia. So I've seen Philadelphia years ago to now change and become a really amazing city for folks in technology, especially women in technology. And I've chosen to stay, in Philadelphia because of seeing it change over these years and seeing the potential of where it is and where it could become. Stimulus is a software company based in Philadelphia, and our product is a relationship intelligence platform that uses data analytics to help companies of all sizes, from small to large enterprises, make better purchasing decisions. I'm also on different boards of career startup leaders, helping Philadelphians really start, grow, and stay in Philadelphia, as well as on the advisory board for the Office of Workforce Development for the City of Philadelphia, among others. So I've seen the growth in technology companies and making sure that we are hiring and keeping students here and really growing, whether this is our first or second location or expanding outside of the city.
Thanks, Tiffanie. Shanae, how about you?
Hi, I'm Shanae Pitts, founder and CEO of Amphetamobile. After finishing my PhD in New York, I wanted to buy a house and start my own business, and that didn't seem possible anywhere else on the East Coast, from Boston to the DC area. And when I heard that it's possible to buy a house in Philadelphia for around $100,000, I moved here 15 years ago. My third time ever, I found a beautiful English Tudor stone and brick on Upper Darby, just outside the Western city limits, still on the subway system, and I came here. I find, the economics of Philadelphia really lend itself to startups. It's the size of a city where you can really be part of a community and feel like you can make a difference. And the economics allow you to prove your business model on the cheap, whether it's B2B or B2C. And home ownership is a pillar of financial stability, building wealth, and building sustainable communities. Amphetamobile, or AMO for short, is a mobile app publishing company. From my scholarly background, we specialize in scholarly publications and continuing education for professionals. And it's been a great place to do that, and as well as be part of the tech and entrepreneurial community in Philadelphia.
Great. And last but not least, Danielle.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me to this conversation today. I'm also born and raised in Philadelphia, right outside in Lower Merion, where I'm sure if anyone has heard of Lower Merion, it's because of Kobe Bryant. So born and raised, have lived in the city now for 7 years. And basically, this is home to me. This is where my family is. I also just have been so proud to be a part of the tech ecosystem for the last really 10 years in Philadelphia. some of the amazing women who are on this panel today, who have been part of the journey in welcoming me as a woman into the industry. Before this, I actually was the head of marketing for the Philadelphia Convention Visitors Bureau. So my job was to love Philadelphia and to get people around the world to love Philadelphia. And now I get to do that in a amazing company of Comcast, NBCUniversal, and to be able to share the stories of what's happening in the tech ecosystem with our worldwide network, and really be able to help shine a light on startup ecosystem, the women in tech, people of color in tech, and it's you know, just a great city to live in. And I love, you know, Shanae, what you said about like cost of living. This is definitely a place where you can live well, you can eat out, and you can get all the wonderful things that that you want at your fingertips. And I still love too that Philadelphia is the best kept secret possibly in the world. And sometimes we still want to keep it that way. So anyone listening, though, this is by far, I mean, it's called the City of Brotherly Love and Sisterly Affection for a good reason, because we really do welcome people from everywhere.
And I'll just add that I am a lifelong Philadelphian as well. And I live, I'll trade you sports heroes, Danielle. I live currently outside of Philadelphia in Cheltenham, and we claim Reggie Jackson. So, so what I would, next question I would like to ask is, what is your impression of the women's community in the Philadelphia region? And Shanae, why don't we start off with you?
Sure. Well, like you mentioned in the introduction, there's actually quite a wide variety of women-focused groups, a variety of interests, a variety of backgrounds, a variety of point of views. So, you know, they each have their own niche, and they're very supportive of each other. For example, I've participated in Women in Technology events, the WISE. I've hosted WISE conferences at in my office space before, and attended the RAD Awards and other, you know, women-focused tech events.
Tiffanie or Danielle?
Yeah, I agree with Shanae. The community of women has grown over the years. I remember when I first started, it was like me and maybe 4 other women at different events, from programs to award ceremonies. It was mainly men. And then over the years with Philly Tech Week and other events have grown to have really focused women events. So, you know, myself, you know, with Mobile Ed and other women starting, you know, Women in Tech Foray for the last 5-6 years, and making sure that we're bringing folks together, whether you're building in tech or running a technology company. And now there's been more conferences and days and programs really focused on women. And to see 100 to 200 women in one room from 4 to 5, you know, 5, 6, 7 years ago has been pretty amazing. I'm starting to see that now in other cities as well. So it's starting to catch on compared to before. And as Shanae mentioned, like a diverse side of the technology, whether you are building or in marketing and tech, whatever your niche may be, there's starting to be more of those types of programs and events, and also more for young girls getting into technology.
And I would just add, so Lift Labs is the front door for startups that are looking to do some kind of partnership with our company. We've been open now for, we started 6 years ago, but we've had a space in the Comcast Technology Center for the last 3 years, the 4th floor. And we started a female founder meetup at the request of the community, right? So it was really the community that asked us for bringing together this wonderful group of women that all, you know, what I love about Philadelphia's women in tech ecosystem is it's incredibly collaborative. And it you know, we talked about this in sort of our prep meeting, which was that there are a lot of different groups, and they don't compete with each other. Everyone kind of supports one another, shows up to each other's events, supports the companies that they're building, and it, I don't know that that's the case in every city that I've been to.
Yeah, and I would like to just add, from building Tech Girls, which we built from scratch, from the get-go, we were supported with, in-kind contributions of people's time, whether they were men or women. So, growing something of this size, which I think we're now have worked with close to 25,000 girls over the last 10 years. I mean, you have to have community support when you're working in a nonprofit space. The other thing that I, would just like to comment is, I have seen, we all get introduced to people who are coming into the city. And I really feel like there's never a point where I say no, or where anybody else says no to bringing people into sort of the fold. So I think that is just indicative of who we are. And then, it is a little bit of a warm, loving embrace, even though sometimes I think Philadelphia may have a reputation of being tough, but I think we're pretty accepting. So as you know, before the pandemic, all of us were traveling to different speaking engagements and conferences or business meetings. In fact, this talk would have been done at South by Southwest in Austin. What have you seen during your visits to other cities that makes your commitment to our region even stronger? And Danielle, I'm gonna start with you.
Yeah, first, I miss so much being at South by Southwest. Coming from an events background and travel industry, there's nothing that has been harder to see, with the exception, obviously, of people being very sick and everything that people have been dealing with during the pandemic. But the other piece of it for me has been what's happened to the travel industry, which is going to need all of our support to make a comeback, and hopefully people will go back to conferences and meetings like South by. To answer your question, we traveled all around the world in building web labs. All of our programs were developed with input from founders around the country, in Philadelphia, and everywhere we traveled. And so we would hear the stories of different cities and what it's like to work in different cities. And I think for me in Philadelphia, Comcast is headquartered here. We are a company that was founded in Philadelphia, and my mother actually worked on the same floor as our founder, Ralph Roberts, when Comcast was a startup. So I have watched Comcast grow up in front of my eyes. And I think that that happens, and I see that with other founded companies in Philadelphia. Everyone who's building a business here is also giving back to the community and cares a lot about what's happening around them. And so I think that that's what makes my commitment to Philadelphia even stronger, is that everyone in the tech ecosystem, men and women from all backgrounds, are really committed to putting time and effort into building community while building their companies.
Yeah. Tiffanie.
Yeah, to Danielle's point, I missed South by this year. That is one of my favorite events. I've been going for maybe 7-8 years now. So it was weird to not have that tradition, as well as other conferences that are normally the conference time, January to about March, April. And I went to about 6-7 cities before the shutdown, between January and February, for work and building up new relationships and conferences that were not yet shut down. So I definitely travel a lot and miss traveling. And what I saw, in other cities, back to Danielle's and SiNae's point earlier, like the cost of living and building out your technology, and making sure whether you know, are bringing in revenue or raising money for your company, you spend so much on that depending on what city you're in. And locally, you can live well here in Philadelphia, raise a little, raise a lot, but still do well and be able to pay your team and have people on your team that are either locally here or even in other cities and still be able to pay yourself well, and buy a house and do things of that nature. And I just don't see that often in other cities. I see people struggling and have raised all this money and they're living with 4 roommates to survive. And, you know, and that happens way more often than not. But I do love when I go to other cities and I get whether it's an inspiration to bring back those resources to Philly, bring back those ideas to Philly. A lot of conferences that we have here now, we're from traveling to South by and going to those other cities to say, hey, Philly can do it too. We have the talent, we have the people, we have the companies. How do we bring it back here? So I think that's what we've been able to do to kind of make it our own, and to really grow that. So it really is a place where, you know, you have great schools, places to have an office space and not spend $1 million, and then be able to pay your team and grow your team well as well.
How about you, Shanae?
Well, I'll make it unanimous. I agree. South by Southwest is one of my favorite events, and I really enjoy the Amplify Philly and City of Philadelphia really bringing together the Philly presence of both our entrepreneurs and our music and culture, and presenting it at such a international forum. I was born in Korea, and I've always been an avid traveler internationally and nationally, and I tend to gravitate towards internationals outside of their country. Including in Philadelphia, we have a really large population of internationals here. I think those are the people who are real self-starters, have an appetite for risk, and that's very much the entrepreneurial mindset and the independent creative. So more than just what I've seen visiting other countries and cities, it's what I see in my friends about their Philadelphia experience. You know, whether they come from France, from Italy, from Brazil, from Singapore, even Canada. Many of them come to Philly for professional education or part of their research training, and they love it here. And many of them, unfortunately, leave because of a visa status, but otherwise they would love to continue to stay. They have fond memories of Philadelphia and their time and their social life here, and as much as they can, they come back to visit. And so I know Philadelphia has a warm spot in the hearts of many internationals.
And, you know, I'll just comment that from one of the other things that came out of Tech Girls is the founding of the Women in Tech Summit. And that summit is going to be celebrating its 10th year, which I know, it's like, where'd the time go? And we've brought it to other regions. And what I've seen from the different regions, and to Philly's credit, is that as we go out in the other regions to try and, you know, source people to come to the events because they're more regional, it was so much easier to find that women's community within Philadelphia is very, very, as we've said, connected. And it was easy to get the word out, where I feel that in some other cities, it was just a little bit more work to make those connections and bring that community together. So I really don't know if I would have been able to start that conference anywhere else. So a little bit of thumbs up, yay for us. So of course, you know, not everything is perfect. We can always be doing better. So what are some of the gaps? We can actually make this a twofold question, which is, what do you think that we do well in the region to support our women in tech? And then where are some of the gaps that if you had the ability to fix, what would they be? And why don't we start with Shanae?
I think piggyback what we do well is that it's a welcoming community. It doesn't feel like you have to be an insider, that you can start here and you'll be welcomed and you'll be supported. that there's such a diversity and variety. You may click with one group and that be your ecosystem. It's very vibrant. I see women, female entrepreneurs in a very broad spectrum of startup businesses. Tech being healthcare, being software, being devices, different kinds of solutions, hardware. I think where we could do better. I think for both female entrepreneurs and my male entrepreneurs, all of us are always looking for better service providers. People who really get this startup lifestyle and approach, that we're passionate about our business, we're really involved, and we're always looking for a good ROI. Sometimes with some providers, I've heard some female entrepreneurs struggle more with being heard, and not being talked over, and not being dismissed. And maybe we can do better with how service providers can approach female-led companies that we might need to think about things and think rather than just have everything in a quick call. That we like to reflect and have good pros and cons and a good ROI for our work.
Danielle.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I think we do so many great things in Philadelphia to start, like just recognizing that. I think it's a very inclusive place for women from all backgrounds, and it made having the really intense and important discussions that happened in the light of what happened with George Floyd. It made it easier, I think, for us to have serious conversation and realize that we already had a lot of trust in the community, and continue to work on that, right? Like that, this is not the first time that we've been talking about this in Philadelphia. So I think that was like a real bright spot, that I had a lot of hope that I knew of so many women and men that, we could have, again, honest discussion, and it wasn't the first time having those discussions about race and equality. And so there was that piece. I do think, we can continue to grow in that area. Like the work is just, I don't want to say just getting started, because it's been getting started in Philadelphia for many, many years. But I think that's probably like, how do we truly make an inclusive tech ecosystem where everybody feels like they have a seat at the table, that they are included in every conversation, that they're making decisions. And I think the only other piece that is missing, and we've heard this now in research that we've done in the last few months post-COVID, is really around like friends and family funding. And the need to have more funding for the earliest stage. I think of Tiffanie all the time when she was out fundraising. It needs to be there, and it has to be more accessible for women. And that's the hope that we have through the Female Founder Funder meetup, is that we will unlock those new connections, and you don't need to know someone to get money, right? Like that's ultimately what's been happening in the Valley for years, is you have to know someone to get money. And here we believe that, you should be able to be building something awesome and have that vision. And if you're not a serial entrepreneur, like that's still okay.
Right.
So I think that's where we can all do better. And the last thing I'll mention, and Tracy, this goes back to, I remember when you and I first met, your passion around young girls in tech is something that, I was never encouraged to go into tech. I kind of stumbled into it now, like decades later. And my nieces will tell you that since I think when they came out of my sister's body, I was like, go into tech, now I want them to do whatever makes them happy. It might not be tech, but there is still a gap there. And, I hope that there are some young women watching this around the world and can see Shanae and Tiffanie and feel inspired, and Tracy, and feel inspired that you can be anything you want to be. If that's tech for you, awesome. And that part to me has been great to watch. I love all of the efforts around women in tech and girls in tech in Philadelphia, and Tracy and so many others. I think about the Hugh event, or the LED event. Like, there's just a strong commitment to inspiring the next generation, and not in a competitive way. Like, we don't see it as competition; we see it as momentum.
Exactly, an expansion.
Yeah.
So, Danielle, I want to come back after we talk to Tiffany and have a discussion around how we can inspire more women to become funders, not just founders. But Tiffany, tell me what you think we're doing well and where the gaps are, what you've seen, in your journey.
Yeah, so I agree with both SiNae and Danielle. So I'll start with the good side. So the good side is definitely, as I mentioned earlier, we're starting to have more programs for young girls, for women in tech, from all genres of how you want to get into technology, whether you're building or looking for employment. But going back to Danielle's point of the lack of diversity and the growing of, as diverse as Philadelphia is starting to catch on over the last couple of years, but definitely for me personally, who have seen it, it's taking a while to get here, and it just started happening over the last 3 to 5 years. But I think we still have a long way to go with being more inclusive, especially for women of color in technology, whether it's events, funding, especially to the funding point. Fundraising in Philadelphia is very hard, especially for the early stage friends and family. Not enough individual investors investing in, women. Definitely not enough small angel groups investing in women and people of color. It's starting to slowly happen. I've been able to fundraise in Philly, which I'm very surprised about. But I also have funders in other cities that I got first before I got in Philly. So it's looking at both and making sure that as diverse as Philadelphia is, the diversity goes into, the funding and goes into support and events focused on us. And then I would say, for one thing I've learned over being an entrepreneur for 15 years, whether you are in tech or just a regular service business, most of the people I knew, their customers were not in Philly. It took a lot for locally for people to purchase from each other. Right. And it's kind of like you leave, you get a bunch of customers elsewhere, and then they decide to really focus on you here locally, even if they're a corporation based here locally. And now I've seen over the last 2-3 years, there's a lot of local initiatives for purchasing, whether you're a tech company, eds and meds, where I'm starting to be a part of those, initiatives to make sure that we are purchasing here locally. And it does not matter what industry you're in. That was always a really big problem, that 90% of your customers are in different cities and maybe 5 to 10% are here locally. So I think we're starting to recognize our own greatness. And then lastly, I would say, I think we sometimes forget we're a big city. As we say, we're a city of neighborhoods. And sometimes it takes us a while to really expand and make decisions on being that big city and trying different things that you may try in another city that you don't really think about. Philly takes a little while to kind of make those decisions. And I'm starting to see over the last few years, or even just with COVID, having to make quicker decisions. Not necessarily by choice, but if certain things would have happened a year ago, pre-COVID, would those same decisions be made is the question.
Right. I'll just, moderators aren't supposed to throw in, but I will. So one thing that I would, I think we've covered pretty well what we're doing well. I think there certainly, I would like to see more women who are, within companies, whether they're large companies or startups, raise their hands so that we can showcase them in events like this. Sometimes, we may know certain people, but there's still a community that's out there that, I'd like to see more faces, right? I think it's just healthy. Tiffany, I just loved your point about area companies looking to work with startups. And then I would just also say, from my standpoint, this isn't about women's community or not, thinking about ourselves as a region and not just about Philly. So I like to say the Philadelphia region. I do want to go back to Danielle's point. This is something that she and I have talked about and she's been very passionate about, which is female funders. And since working with Ellen Weber and a few others to create the female founder and funders group, how do you think we can get more female funders, especially in that early stage, to support female founded companies? Do you have any advice on that, Danielle?
Yeah, I mean, well, first, it's a female founder and funder meetup. It's open to anyone. You don't have to be from Philadelphia. We actually have people now who come. We've had people fly in from Denver because they want to meet female founders and other funders. And what I think that there's an education gap a little bit, and also women tend to be a little risk averse. So part of it is just educating yourself. And it's something that personally I've educated myself about in where do I feel comfortable investing? How do I make my decisions? Whether that's you want to be an angel investor or you want to do personal investment just with someone you believe in, who you're really not looking for returns on, but you believe in what they're doing, so you will support them, you'll help them, you'll give them like every connection that you could potentially open to them. So there are amazing women who are in tech in Philadelphia who now have the means to be angel investors. And angel investing might not be for everybody, right? So that might be something you don't want to do. There might be other ways, like through Kickstarter, through you may meet a founder and just believe in what she is doing and write a check that basically helps that person get an LLC done, or or I used to say business cards, but like who does business cards anymore because we're not in business. But so it kind of goes back to that friends and family round, which doesn't have a lot of strings attached to it. And you could start there, invest in, invest in the people that you're excited about, who you want to see move forward. And I have seen more and more women in the last 2 years since we started this group with Ellen Weber from Temple and Robin Hood Ventures. Our goal was to educate women about this, about the opportunity. Investing is not for everyone, but we also don't want women to be, again, held back from investment conversations because they don't have the language to speak, or are just not invited to those tables. Right. So, the other thing is a lot of men are very interested in investing in women. And we have men come to the Female Founder Funder meetup because they want access to amazing founders who they, also want to take a shot on. So to me, it's really about the education. Again, it's not for everybody. Not everybody should be a founder. Not everybody should be an investor. Right? Sure. But if you do have the means and you're interested in learning more about it, the other thing that this meetup created was a safe place for women to ask questions that we found, including myself, uncomfortable sometimes asking in a room full of men. And there is a reality there. And we have, I think, created a very safe place for women to just ask the basics and get the details and not feel judged in any way.
Right. Great. So we have a question from the audience. So I'll diverge from our prep questions. For someone looking to relocate or establish their startup in the Philly region, what are the first steps someone should take? And I'll throw this out to Tiffanie and Shanae.
So yeah, I would definitely reach out to, different organizations. Of course, the Commerce Department at the City of Philadelphia that has amazing resources and programs for folks that are coming to the city, like Startup PHL. Also the Philly Startup Leaders, where they're helping you find programs, resources, funders to really let you know what's happening in Philly as you're planning to come here, and events and communities that you can really join here. And then there's also some, real estate organizations that can help you find a place as you're looking to come here, whether you are looking to rent or you're looking to really be in the upcoming neighborhoods. And you can also get that from the city of Philadelphia, where they're helping you figure out what's the neighborhood that you want to be at, depending on what type of either job you're getting or company you're building, and where you plan to have your office space as well. So you're looking in University City, what apartments can you look at in that area so you can be, able to walk or hop on a train quickly. So we have a lot of great resources, from Philly Startup Leaders to the City of Philadelphia Commerce Department.
Yeah, I agree, Tiffany. Philly Startup Leaders, Startup Philly, the Department of Commerce are great resources. I think checking out one of the mini incubators in Philadelphia is a great way to start. In 2008, I happened to start 3 companies, and one of them got accepted to Dream Adventures. And that was an amazing experience for me. And I just love the incubator model. My first company while I was in graduate school was in an incubator, and having a cohort of other startups, having an amazing lecture series of serial entrepreneurs and VCs, and just getting a boot camp or a jump start into the community, the lifestyle, and resources available locally Dream It was one of, I think, a third in the nation, first in Philly,
Yeah.
And now there's so many of them for all different niches at all different times of the year. Many of them have gone online. I think that's a great way to start. And come and visit and think about not only how you're starting your business, but how you want to start your life. Philly has such a diverse and rich arts and culture scene. I have, great social and professional life here, where I can go out 5 nights a week, 2 or 3 events a day, and still miss, really cool things.
So another question from our audience: how do you find talent, especially female talent, for your company in Philadelphia? Compare with other cities in the U.S., is it less challenging to find talent here? So I think that there's a wide variety of talent that's needed to, when you're starting a company. And I think all 3 of you could ask that question. Why don't we start with Danielle? Because I'm thinking that some of the startups in Lip Labs, may be looking for talent, and how perhaps you've helped them.
Yeah, just from a talent perspective, I think Philadelphia has an amazing, again, sort of like hidden talent pool.
Yeah.
That, once people figure out that they're here, they want to steal them to other cities, other companies in other cities. From a Comcast perspective, we have some of the most amazing technologists, a lot of female technologists in our company. Been a big effort in recruiting talent from Philadelphia, but from other places. But what we're finding now is I've seen some talent from Comcast is now going to some of the startups, the bigger startups like GoPuff and Guru, and that to me is what starts showing the true success of a startup ecosystem, is when there are opportunities to bounce around and get new experiences in new companies, both big and small. And then the companies in our accelerators, we have like 31 companies that come to our accelerator. Some have moved to Philadelphia. We had Zaza from Nickel Pass decided to move his company here, which was really exciting. I think 8 of the companies of 31 have a presence in Philadelphia in some way, which is much higher than we thought. But part of why we started the accelerators, we wanted to bring companies from around the world to Philadelphia so that their talent could also see that this is an amazing city for lots of opportunities. And the startups do hire from the local community and the universities.
Right. So I just want to add in that we are sitting with, I think it's 100 universities and colleges within, I'm probably wrong about this, but I'm going to say 25-mile radius of the center city. It could be a little bit larger than that. So we're sitting with a lot of college-ready talent that is here. So that's something to think about. And I can also say from my experience from the developer side, we have so many technology meetups. So that's from the coding and software development side. But maybe Tiffanie and Shanae, you could talk about not just about the software developer side. Can you talk about other talent that you've been able to find in here?
Yeah, definitely. Just recently, over the last 7 months, we've hired here locally, and we have some tech talent here, and we also have tech talent in, other cities in another country as well. And it's making sure that, as you mentioned, kind of working with the college students early, because we have a lot of talent here, but I would say that it's hard to get them if they're thinking of starting their own companies, right? They want to kind of build their own, and then we're trying to go after the same talent. We do have talent, but they are so talented, they want to do their own thing. So it's trying to kind of maneuver them from doing that. Or like Danielle said, a lot of big tech companies here, if they've been at, a corporation for a while, they're now looking for new talent. So then they want to come to a startup, whether it's women or men, where they, are now giving that talent to, smaller, medium-sized companies. So it's really building those relationships in those meetups, whether it's, Code for Philly and Coded by Kids and all these other amazing organizations where they're mentoring the kids and they're starting on different projects, and then they want to come and actually help you build your company because they like your idea or your initiative, or they periodically work on the project with you. So we do definitely have a lot of organizations and amazing talent. It's just making sure that you're building relationships with them before you need them, just because everybody's going to kind of want them and you want them too. So,
Shanae, anything to add?
I agree. Networking has been a great way to find female employees or other female-led groups. We went fully virtual 3 years ago, so we say we would like to work with the best wherever they are, and giving people the ability to have a great work-life balance of being able to work from home. And now this pandemic, our team was fortunately well prepared for that. And so I think I like to work in my network, work with women I know and friends, and maybe that's not as a hire, but as a provider or as a consultant,
right.
And that's been great.
Right. So not everybody needs to be an employee, but having that network of service providers, contractors, consultants is also another way of expanding out. And I know that we have a pretty robust freelancer and consulting community, thanks to our early co-working space, Indy Hall. So shout out to Alex Hillman. I had a thought in my head, and it just totally went. So, I remember co-op programs. So I know that's attached to universities, but I'll shout out to Drexel alum, and their co-op program is extremely strong. We have other colleges and universities who also have robust co-op programs, and I think that that's an important piece for companies to be able to grow talent as well. So I think we have, we're down to like 5 minutes, and we're going to end this with, so why don't you give a shout out to somebody who has been your mentor or champion in the Philly community. So we'll end on a really positive note. So Tiffanie, why don't you start? Who's somebody who has helped you in your journey?
like men or women, or
Men or women?
Hey, okay. Good amount of people actually.
Could be more than one.
Oh, okay, good. I was thinking I was trying to narrow it down.
Yeah.
So I would say Bridget Daniels been a great friend for many years now, and we've partnered on Women in Tech Foray for Philly Tech Week the last 5-6 years at this point. So we've grown as being women in tech and really growing that relationship to become a friendship. Started converting to a friendship. So I would definitely say her. I would say David Edelman of CEO of Campus Apartments. He's been an amazing mentor and an investor in our company, and he's been one of our biggest advocates ever since we invested.
Super. Danielle.
So many people to mention. Wow. It's interesting. I learned so much from people. And so I'm going to give 2 shouts out to people I've learned from. I think I've learned a lot from Kiera from Philly Startup Leaders. I love her passion for the work, and she has a tremendous focus on building her own things and building community at the same time. And I just so love where she took Philly Startup Leaders. So I'll give her a shout out. And, I think the other people have been the Philly Startup Leaders community overall. I remember when I first joined the board of Philly Startup Leaders, Tracy, Bob Mao, Rick Mucci, there were so many people who brought me to the table and introduced me around. And, I think that entire community and the community of women, I've just been so impressed. I mean, I think about, Shanae and Tiffanie, and, I'm inspired by you, that you are why we do the work we do. And I'm only in this role because of wanting to help founders from all backgrounds. And so there's so many people. I don't know. I can't just name one.
And Shanae, bring us home.
Yeah. First that came to mind was this group I've belonged to for the past 7 to 8 years called the Mentoring Circle, started by a serial entrepreneur named Harry Harbour. He's now in his 70s, but it's about 15 local area CEOs, and we meet once a month, and we really share real problems that are going on and real issues. And I've learned so much, but I don't have a board of advisors, and this is my informal board of advisors. And my good friend Yasmin Mustafa War invited me to that.
Yasmin, how did we forget Yasmin?
Yeah. And we've been great friends and collaborators, and I've learned so much from how she's told her story, how she's pivoted her company and been mission driven. She also recruited Patrice Banks, who also lives and has her Girls Auto Clinic here in Upper Darby, and we're good friends. And I work with her husband too, and she's also another great example of being really powerful about telling your story, being mission driven, and doing things to change the world for the better.
Well, that is a fabulous way to end. We are at 9:59. Thank you, ladies, and thanks to our audience for joining us. I hope that you found this conversation inspiring, and come to Philly. I think we're all on LinkedIn. Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but please feel free to reach out to us if you have questions past this. And welcome to our community.
Welcome. Bye.
Have a great Wednesday.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.